The tensions in the Middle East are escalating. The Ayatollah and also the leaders of Iran have stated that there are no constraints on their abilities to create, manufacture more centrifuges and to be able to put together more mixture of uranium so that they can actually go ahead now and put together a nuclear weapon. Not to mention they can always buy a nuclear weapon from places like North Korea if they choose to do so. But I think the Iranian people are proud people, and they would not want to buy a nuclear weapon. And I'm sure Kim Jong-un has offered to sell them nukes, but they are proud people. The Iranian people are proud. The sons of Hagar, they are proud people. If they use a nuke, they want it to be made by their chemists and by their scientists and by their own generals and their military structure. They want it to be an Iranian product, not a North Korean product. They would never do that. Of course, the potential for them to do that. And I think the anger that you see now in the streets of Tehran over this issue, and perhaps it would not be as explosive as it is if Trump was not such a such a nasty individual, such a degenerate, such a foul-mouthed individual that has really now stirred the anger of the Iranian people, talking about how he's going to nuke the cultural centers. I don't know if we have a clip with him stating that he's going to nuke the cultural centers. But having said that, I'm not a fan of Rand Paul. I've listened to him over the years. I watched his father and with interest, and I've watched both of the Pauls in politics. But Rand Paul made a statement on yesterday because Mike Pompeo was out on the Sunday circuit on all 6 television shows in the morning this past Sunday, talking about how there was an imminent threat and that Qasem Soleimani was imposing upon Americans and others, and that he needed to be taken out. It was the right moment. It had to be done, and that the world is now a safer place as a result of Soleimani being taken out. And I think Rand Paul has some statements yesterday on CNN. I think that that makes Pompeo look like the big, fat, stupid idiot and brown noser, pardon me if that offends you, that he is to Tribulation Trump. I mean, anyway, Mr. Engineer, roll clip number 1 with Rand Paul discussing the death of Soleimani.
To kill General Soleimani make Americans safer or less safe?
I think that's a good question, and I think the stated purpose by the administration was that they were going to prevent attacks on Americans. But I think if you ask the question now, is it more or less likely that there'll be attacks on Americans? I think it's much more likely. The replacement for Soleimani is basically a clone, somebody who is a hardliner who's worked with Soleimani for 20 some odd years. And so while Soleimani may have been plotting attacks, and probably was, it's now a certainty that there will be attacks in revenge for his killing. The other unintended consequence here is you saw the chanting in the streets of Tehran. This has emboldened the hardliners. Iran is like any other country. There's a mixture of opinion. There are hardliners that never want to talk to America at all, death to America, but there are moderates and younger people who do like the West and who would talk to us. I think what this does is it lessens the voices of anybody that wants moderation or diplomacy. And even the Iranians will not be able to approach us on diplomacy until there's revenge, until there's adequate revenge to satiate the people who want some kind of revenge. And this is sad. I mean, the death of Soleimani, I think, is the death of diplomacy with Iran. I don't see an off-ramp. I don't see a way out of this.
So did the president make a major mistake?
I think that he got bad advice. I think that basically, even though he let John Bolton go, this is John Bolton. John Bolton's clapping and jumping up and down and rubbing his hands together because this is what he wanted, to take a dramatic action to kill one of their main leaders. But the thing is it's going to have unintended consequences. And really, as part of this whole recipe, the administration, mainly at John Bolton's behest, tore up the Iran agreement, placed a significant and severe embargo on Iran, and then killed one of their major generals. Nobody in their right mind would actually think that that would lead to negotiation. So when Secretary of State Pompeo is out there saying, well, maximum pressure, our goal is to get them back to the negotiating table. No naive child would believe that. You would have to be brain dead to believe that we tear up the agreement, we put an embargo on you, and we kill your major general, and they're just going to crawl back to the table and say, what do you want, America? I mean, military escalation is really what you would predict with this. I think most people who are thinking about this would have predicted that everything they've done with regard to Iran is leading now to this military escalation. And I want to be careful that nothing justifies their military action, but it is predictable given what path we've chosen.
No naive child, you'd have to be brain dead to think that what Trump has done in nuking Soleimani is going to cause the Iranians to come crawling back to the table and sue for peace. This is absolutely incredible. We know that the reason why Trump nuked Soleimani is to take the discussion away from the impeachment and to wag the dog, as Bill Clinton has done, and as others have thought about doing when they're in the depths of a conditional news cycle that they're drowning in. And he has successfully changed the news cycle rather than being about the impeachment and now being about, and the other thing is that millions will die as a result of what Trump has done. Blood will run in the streets of America and New York City and Tehran. But Trump doesn't care. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.